Welcome back. Let's talk about something that sounds complex, but is actually very natural, especially for those of us that are builders, visionaries, and problem solvers. It's called the theory of change. Now, this is the module 3 of our grant writing course, and this is the lesson 3. In this lesson 3, we are going to be talking about the theory of change, and this module 3 is about design your idea like a pro. Now, I know the name alone, the name theory of change, that name alone can feel like a little intimidating, but trust me, you already use it in your everyday thinking. You just have not, put it in paper. So today, we are going to break it down into simple parts, and by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to create your own beginner-friendly logic model, the kind that funders will love, right? So now let's talk about what is the theory of change. What is the theory of change? Now, in simple terms, a theory of change is your project story told through cause and effect. Let me take that again. What exactly is this theory of change? We are saying that in its simplest term, a theory of change is your project story that is told through cause and effect, right? It's a logical explanation of a theory of change is the logical explanation of what is the problem, or what the problem is. You are explaining what the problem is and what you will do about it, and also totally and how your actions will lead to real lasting change regarding the problem. So theory of change answered this question. It answered the question of, if we do this, then what then that will happen, and eventually we will see this outcome. So in its basic term, the theory of change answered this question, that if we do this, right, that is what you want to do about the problem, then that will happen. That is the result, and eventually we'll see this outcome. So this just what theory of change, the question that it answers in so doing. So let's look at the basic structure of the theory of change. Now, here is the beginner format I teach and use myself. So, talking about the theory of change, we are looking at some format to look at this particular theory of change. And one of the first thing is input. What you have or need. What you have or need is the input activities, what you will do. We've covered a lot of these activities. And thirdly is the output. That is the immediate result. That means that if you use what you need and what you will do, what are you going to get? Um, Also the outcomes, short and medium term change, and fifthly is the impact, which is the long term transformation. So we're going to break each of these down with a simple example, right? Okay, let's say you want to reduce teenage pregnancy in a rural area, like I put here. Let's say this is what you want to do. So your input, could be these are resources, including funding, people, partnerships or tools, right? So now remember, this is a kind of problem that you want to solve, that we are working with. Let's say this is what you want to do. So now for this particular problem, these are some of the inputs. Inputs mean resources. Resources can be funding, can be people, partnership, tools, or whatsoever things that would be required. One of those things that I can name, these are example, is, let's say, a grant of 1 million naira, a trained peer educators, support from local schools, access to training space, right? These are resources that I will need to help reduce the teenage pregnancy in rural community, because I will need to, do a lot of program for them, orientation and some training and all that. So these are some of the inputs that are required for me to do so. Now let's now look at activities. Activities. This means what you will do with those inputs, just like we've been talking about all these times. You see that this module is about you refining your ideas, and all the lessons in it are all talking about the same thing. So activities is what you will do with those inputs. Now, these are the inputs that I mentioned regarding this problem I want to solve. And then we've mentioned these inputs, and then these are activities. Mainly, it's talking about what you will do with all these inputs that, let's say you have all the inputs. So, what will now happen? What is the next thing? So activities, we have host sexual health workshops, provide counseling sessions, distribute educational booklets, and partner with clinics for youth-friendly services. These are several activities. Depending on your project, you can just craft out the activity. We've covered that in the lesson one and in the previous lesson, lesson three. And yeah, list out all your activities, what you are going to do, and what you will do with the input that you have, right? Now, the third is the output. So, these are the direct results of your activities, the direct results of your activities. Now, we talk about activities here, and then the output is what the result of those direct activity. Let's say whole sexual health workshop. So what is the direct result of each of these activities, right? So example, here we have 300 guests attended 5 workshops, 5 assessed counseling, 1,000 booklets distributed. These are immediate results of activities, right? And let's look at the outcomes. Outcomes, we're asking, these are behavioral or social changes that result from the output. So the social, the economical, behavioral changes that happen as a result of that output. Some of the examples based on what we are following in this example series is girls demonstrate better understanding of reproductive health, increase in use of contraceptives. Like you can, depending on what you want to achieve, you can have a lot and lots of outcomes that are dependent from your output. And this will show your funders that you have a good theory of change, and then you know what you are working on. So the impact now, this is the big picture change, the reason you started in the first place, the big picture change. And what we want to achieve is that teenage pregnancy rate in the target community drops by 40% over 2 years. That means that if we have the input, and then we do what we plan in the activities, overall, this is what we're going to achieve. Girls will stay in school, teenage pregnancy will drop by over 40% within 2 years, reduce maternal health risks among adolescents. So these are some of the things that this is mainly what the theory of change is all about. Right? That is what theory of change is all about. Now let's look at how all of these things connect. It all connects. Imagine it like a chain. We have the input, the activities. Input will lead to activities. Activities lead to outputs, and output lead to outcomes, and outcomes lead to impact. So every piece should flow naturally and into the next. So if your output does not lead to real outcomes, funders will question your logic. So if your activities feel weak, they will doubt the result also. That is why theory of change helps you to lighten everything from design to delivery. So let's look at the virtual logic model. So in the virtual logic model is a basic layout you can draw, and I'll give you this as a worksheet also as part of the course, right? The virtual logic model, we are talking about inputs, like I mentioned, how it all connects. We're talking about how input flow to activities and how activities flow to outputs and how outputs flow to outcomes and how outcomes flow to impact, right? So if you plug in an example like the example that we have above there, if we plug them in, we see we are asking for funding and trainers, which are part of the inputs, and then this is an input funding trainers, right? 1 million funding. Still remember how we structure it, and then asking for activities, listing out activities that will be doing workshops, we'll be sharing booklets, we'll be having a counseling session. So this is an input flowing to activities and then flow to outputs that at the end of the day we are going to have 300 guests trained and we're going to have 50 of them counseled. Um, per program, yeah, per program. And then we have outcome like improve awareness and behavioral change. This is the outcome. And then we have the overall impact of the program, lower teen pregnancy rate, more girls in school, right? So this is the visual logic model of how it works. See, that's your project logic on a single line. So this is the project logic just like this on a single line, very clear and understanding. So we have several examples of how this work in the next lesson, lesson 4. All right, so uh, okay. Uh, so this what you are going to do is from the assignment that you had in lesson 1 of this module, and you are going to go ahead, turn that assignment into this type of logic model, visual logic model, so that you'll be able to, have a real life experience of how to really turn that concept into a visual logic model. So, that is your assignment on this particular lesson. So your theory of change is not just for funders, it's your internal compass. Is your proof that what you are doing will actually make a difference in the real world. And when you build a strong theory of change, you don't just write a better proposal, you run a better project. In our next lesson, we are going to look at 3 real project ideas and turn them into fundable outlines using everything we have learned from lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3. So grab your worksheet. Like I mentioned, turn your assignment from lesson 1, ensure you use it also to create the visual logic model in this lesson 3. I'm Oluwole from Grand Database, and remember, if you can show how change happens, people will believe in your power to make it happen. So let's keep building. See you in lesson 4. And if you are new here, ensure you subscribe to this channel.